Hey everyone, how you doing today? Welcome back to Gridless Beaver. We are just going to make some squash soup today with these very meager squash that I was able to get. I just have a hankering for squash soup. It's really not the season for it, but we're going to make it. Usually with squash soup, the way that we do it, we turn the oven on and we would roast this, but it is summertime, and since we have a beautiful sunny day today, we are going to put these in the sun oven and do the roasting that way before we put it with all the ingredients to finalize it. So this will be the roasting part via the sun oven. We've done this process before. Squash soup is a very, very easy soup to make. I'm going to cut these in half, roast them until they're sort of tender, and then we'll pick up the rest of the recipe. But as I mentioned, it's pretty easy and delicious, which is the reason that I like it and make it all the time. So while the sun oven is working its magic, the free energy from the sun, let's talk about some of the good things about having a sun oven. Obviously, the number one thing about having a sun oven is after the initial purchase, you never have to pay for fuel again. As long as it's a sunny day or mostly sunny day, you're going to be able to get up to temperatures to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's plenty warm for doing most aspects of cooking. Today with that much squash in there, it might not get to that temperature, but as long as it's at a cooking temperature, I just gotta wait longer. So we still have 8 hours of sunlight left today, so there's gonna be plenty of time to get that squash cooked. Convenience, we talked about the cost, never having to pay for fuel again. Well, there's also getting fuel to remote locations. Maybe it's electricity and you have to run power or use a battery bank. You don't want to do that for cooking. Maybe it's propane and you've got to lug propane or pay for someone to bring it in, or whatever the case may be, go and fill it. Maybe it's like a camp stove or another type of stove. All those things have fuel, and with fuel comes not only cost, but transportation, time spent doing that stuff. Literally with the sun oven, we unfold it and unfurl the parabolic mirrors that direct the sunlight into the areas that want to get extra hot, and that's it. It's literally a 40-second process to set up the sun oven. We keep it conveniently located right outside of our door, and away we go. We have, on sunny days, we have an immediate way to heat up food or roast food or dehydrate food. So there's lots of options, and those are the reasons that we really like it. It's summertime. It's 30 degrees Celsius outside, or maybe it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Who wants to cook inside of a hot kitchen or make their dwelling hot when it's like that outside? Nobody. So cook it outside. You don't overheat your house. We don't have air conditioning. We don't have a heat pump here. We rely upon extra insulation for our house in order to keep things cool in the summer when it's a warm day. We close our windows up, close our blinds so the sun can't get in, and it stays at a fairly comfortable temperature. Then when night hits, and around these parts when the temperature drops, we open up all of our windows to let that cool air come in and then refresh the cycle. So during the day, it's nice and cool. We don't want to heat it up in there during the summer months. We want it nice and cool. So cooking outside is really a great way to be able to not overheat your house. I am not a vendor. I'm not supporting a particular make or model. It's really the technology that is important for me. The particular model I use is a sun oven. It's really gone up in price in the last 12 years since we got our sun oven. I think I paid $283 for it years ago, and now it's up to near $500. It's still a good investment, in my opinion. I mean, if everyone who lived off-grid had one of these, you'd be amazed at how much money you save year over year from a propane perspective. Roasting something in the oven takes 2 or 3 hours. You know, that's not cheap from a propane perspective. You do that every day, that's a lot of propane you're using over the course of the year. So with this, you just cut costs, make things really efficient, and if you're doing work outside, you can tend your food as you're doing it. I literally did this. It's noon here on the property, and I'm going to be outside doing some work. So the only thing that I'll be doing during the course of the day is just positioning the solar oven so that it's pointing towards the sun, so we get optimal cooking. Now, I have put up videos on video on this before. It's something that we do use. It's often so quick that I don't really set it up or talk about it, because it's just part of our sort of boring daily routine that for us is commonplace. But for you folks who don't have a lot of experience with everything off-grid, it's really a winning strategy. It's something you want to try to employ. $500 might seem like a big spend, but propane costs aren't cheap. You know, a tank of propane is $25 around these parts to basically fill up. It'll last obviously for a couple weeks, but if you do that 3 times a year at $75, we've had this for 12 years. So, you know, 12 times 75 is a substantial spend if we were doing this with propane. But with the sun oven, besides the $283 that we originally spent on it, we have never had to spend another cent to cook our meals. So if you're interested in going off grid, I seriously think that you should consider something like this. It might seem a little wonky and janky, but you're using solar panels to collect energy from the sun. Why not use a sun oven to collect the heat from the sun, so that you can double down on your off-gridness and take advantage of all the things the sun has to offer. Okay, the solar oven squash soup recipe is now complete. Thank you to the sun. We have a delicious meal that we can partake in probably for at least 2 or 3 meals and some sides. So it's quite a bounty when you can have all this energy from the sun and take advantage of it to cook your own food, or at least cut down some of the requirements. You did see obviously that I had to come behind and use propane to actually put it into a boiling state. That's obviously a necessary evil. If it were winter time, I probably would have just thrown it on top of the wood stove and waited extra long, because you can get there just as easily that way after you sort of cook your onions. So anyway, lots of options, and it's really great to have something like the sun oven on hand to be able to help cook meals and be out in the yard doing things and still have supper taken care of without too much time indoors. You saw for yourself, I was indoors for probably 15 minutes during this whole cooking process. So it is very possible. This isn't really an outside oven, outside cooking area, but I do like it, especially now that the bugs are done, because it's nice to be outside and be cooking. So anyway, thanks for sticking around. Hit the subscribe button if you made it this far through this soup sun oven journey. I appreciate you sticking around, and yeah, I'll catch you next time. Thanks.